Thanks for tuning in to the Prime Bookseller Podcast, the bi-weekly podcast discussing all things Amazon bookselling.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Prime Bookselling Podcast. I'm Eric, and we're back with another episode. Today we're talking about something that everybody loves in the Amazon selling sphere, and that's stranded inventory. And so I'm going to tell you what I know about stranded inventory. I'm going to also tell you that typically in my business model, again, I don't know how much I've said this on this podcast, but this is something I preach to people that know me all the time. I'm a very lazy bookseller. And because of that, I just try not to get dwelled into these little things that can drive you mad. And I feel like stranded inventory is one of these things. So basically, what is stranded inventory? Stranded inventory really only affects you if you're an Amazon FBA seller. So this is only ever going to happen to product that you have in Amazon's warehouse. And what it's saying is that Amazon is basically telling you that for some reason they have this item in the warehouse, but for some reason it's not showing for sale on Amazon. And there is a ton of reasons why this can happen. It can just be a simple glitch where you uploaded a listing to Amazon and it didn't take, or it didn't get properly uploaded, it errored out, and now there's no physical listing for the item, and you have to go back and regenerate the listing. It can be because Amazon has flagged it for some reason and said that this listing can't be shown. A common reason that might happen is because Amazon says, well, the product page doesn't have an image, or the image doesn't meet our standards, so they'll suppress it and it'll go into your stranded inventory. It could also be because of restrictions. So maybe you sent in a book and Amazon decided later that, oh no, nobody's allowed to sell this book, or maybe for whatever reason, just you're not allowed to sell this book. So then they restrict that listing from you. And then basically now Amazon has created the environment where this listing is no longer showing because it's restricted. You have it in physical inventory at Amazon. So Amazon's saying, hey, this is stranded. What do you do about stranded inventory? Well, what I see a lot of Amazon sellers doing about this problem is that they sit and they let their brain fry trying to figure out why all these items are stranded. And personally, it's up to you. If this is something that's very important to you, that, I need everything to run smoothly, I need everything to run perfectly, I can't lose money on any single item because that's just not how I want to run my business. That's great. Then you can tackle with the struggles of stranded inventory. You should go in there. You should try to fix everyone. You should try to learn why these are happening. And probably in the end, if you do that and you don't lose your mind, you're probably a better seller as a whole. But what's in my experience is going in and trying to figure out why Amazon has stranded this inventory. It's not worth it. It's just the data they give you to tell you why it's stranded is cryptic. It makes no sense. They tell you that you need to do this certain thing and you do it and it still stays stranded. And it's just a huge frustration. So this is what I would tell you, is that personally how I handle this is that all I ever do, so there's a setting. If you go into settings in your Amazon account, there's FBA settings. There's settings to just have stranded inventory removed. And I just have it removed every 30 days and just don't even bother with it. If you want to go in there and look at the stranded inventory, if you go under Manage Inventory in your Seller Central account, it'll bring up all your inventory. There's actually a link right at the top that says stranded inventory. It will tell you all your stranded inventory. If you want to go in there and try to figure out how to learn how to fix some of them, maybe you can fix the really easy ones. But in the end, you're not going to be able to fix all of them. They're just going to be some of these items that for whatever reason, they're just going to stay stranded. And at a certain point, you have to let those items go. I have chosen to go the lazy way and just say, I'm not even going to pay attention to that. And as long as my stranded inventory, as long as they're not culling 9,000 items, or, let's just use a more rational number. As long as the amount of items that they're culling in a month are very minimal. Like if I lose 1 or 2 books a month because of stranded inventory, I'm fine with that. And so I just let them remove it, move on with my life, and I don't even pay attention. And I highly recommend that every seller does that, or at least you can be more aggressive with it than that if you want, because that's the pretty dramatically easy way to do it. But the biggest point I want to make with this episode is do not sit and obsess over this and just to the point where you make yourself mad, because I see people all the time posting on Facebook groups and things like that are doing exactly that. They're like, oh my God, I have this item of stranded inventory. I don't know what to do. The world's going to collapse. My whole business is going to fail. And it's like, no, sometimes you just have to let an item go. And if it's really, really important to you, you can always go in there and you can request that Amazon sends the item back to you so you don't lose that coveted item. And I would recommend, because more than likely if you send it back in, you're going to have problems with it again. So don't even bother to try and send it back in. Just move on with it. Put that book up on eBay, move on with your life. But there isn't a whole lot for me to say about stranded inventory beyond that, because that's my philosophy with stranded inventory. And I think that's a pretty solid strategy, because I do get onto a lot of calls with other Amazon sellers and they're struggling with this stuff and they are infinitely frustrated. And I'm just like, no, I just don't worry about that. And again, from my philosophy, what's more important for you as a bookseller is to be happy and enjoy what you're doing, rather than losing, minimizing your losses because of stranded inventory. Well, if stranded inventory makes you insane, then it's worth losing the money to not have to deal with it. I can say all the wonderful things and all the bad things I want about Amazon, but like they do fail in this space where these systems don't work the way I feel they should, because they should be pretty cookie cutter about how to manage this stuff, and it's really not. It's cryptic, it's confusing. And when it's cryptic and confusing, you just have to do the best you can, and sometimes that means just walking away and not worrying about it. That said, there are times, now actually haven't seen this happen in a very long time, but there were times in Amazon's history where one day half my inventory would go stranded. And to this day, I could not even tell you how this would happen. But in those instances that happened, I assume it was just some sort of computer system error on Amazon's end. But the best way that I have found to fix those items, when it appears like a huge amount of items, if a huge amount of items go stranded, that is something you want to address, because it's one thing if you're losing 1 or 2 items a month, but if suddenly half your inventory is stranded, that's a big problem. And the best way to do that is, and I'm going to give you a brief breakdown, so you'll have to do some research to figure out how to do this, but the best way to do this is to fully remove your SKUs for those items from the Amazon catalog. This is the best way I have found to fix it. You remove those items. So now what that means is, normally when you remove an item from Amazon, you're not removing the listing per se. You're like, a better way to describe this, if you're familiar with the way the Amazon ecosystem works, is you're removing the quantity from the item, but you're not removing the SKU, if that makes sense. And the best way to fix this is there's another option in there where you can completely delete and close out the listing so it completely disappears from your account.